The number of missiles and rockets launched from Iran is on the slide as the US and Israel pummel targets in Tehran. In the skies, Israel released a video of a successful dogfight overnight. That's the first in this campaign, and it follows the destruction of an Iranian warship off the coast of Sri Lanka yesterday. Iran's navy has been smashed. Joining us live to discuss this and more is the Republican strategist John Jordan. John, what are your thoughts on all of that? I mean, this is shock and awe in 2026.
Yeah, it's War of the Worlds, and we're the Martians. Basically, what is happening is the Iranian military, which is dealing with Chinese and Russian and indigenous equipment, 20 to 40 years out of date, is slowly being reduced. That's why the number of missiles flying are reduced, not because largely they're running out of missiles so much as they're running out of launcher vehicles. And every time they launch one, they lose a vehicle because we see and react to it so fast. Speed kills in war, and it's the synthesis of detection, information processing, information sharing, and getting it out to the shooters real fast. And that's the real difference here. So you're seeing each day that goes by, Iran's military capabilities are diminishing. Next up to be watching out for is the target sets will begin to include the besieged, the paramilitary arm of the Republican Guard and the command and control of the Republican Guard, and start to undermine the cohesiveness of the security apparatus of the Iranian state.
So that's a good point. So what should we be expecting to come next? I mean, I know others who I've spoken to on this program say Iranian fast boats might well be used around the Strait of Hormuz. I'm not sure how long that could last, but what should we expect once those missiles and rockets descend even further?
Yeah, so you're going to see a shifting targeting universe. Right now, the emphasis is on the ballistic missiles and the drones because there's only a finite number of interceptors that we and our allies have. So we need to take out as many as we can and inhibit their ability to launch them before we have to intercept them. As that starts to collapse in on itself, we will be simultaneously devoting greater resources to what remains of the Iranian Navy, especially their asymmetric warfare capabilities, where they can impede traffic and the pricing of traffic moving through the Strait of Hormuz, which is causing some upset in world markets. So that will be happening. The Navy will be bringing in assets to deal with that, to deal with fast boats and some of the asymmetric platforms the Iranians use. That will become an area of emphasis. The Israelis simultaneously, and with our help, because nobody knows exactly how the labor is divided up, will begin to go after the besieged and the Republican Guard command and control of the security apparatus of the state in a more systematic way. That, of course, is dependent on intelligence being gathered. Part of that's us doing that through electronic intelligence, which is electronic eavesdropping, and what human intelligence assets we have, and the enormous intelligence assets the Iranians have. So that will be happening. Meanwhile, there'll be pressure being put by perhaps arming the Kurds, or at least threatening to, and menacing the Iranian state from that direction. So lots going on, and you're going to start to see some of these priorities shift as necessity dictates.
Yeah, I mean, tell you what we're seeing here is just the awesome power of the American military and the Israeli military in very much a coordinated response. I mean, there's only so much you can do from the air, though, John. Do you suspect that the CIA is readying the Peshmerga?
Well, that's that's part of it. You don't want to unleash a sectarian, ethnic, warfare inside of Iran, because a lot of Persians don't like the Kurds. There's some historical enmities there. We don't want to repeat past errors. Now, the big question is, can you do this from the air? And historically, going back before Gulf War I in 1990-91, it was, you could never win a war by the air with air power alone. Well, technology had changed, giving lie to that statement. The air campaign gave rise to a 100-hour campaign that was just because you basically was taking the surrender of Iraqi troops. And the same, you saw that again in 2003. Forces and armed formations will begin to come apart when they realize that they're not getting orders. There's no command and control. Morale collapses when death is certain, especially from an unseen enemy. And then ground force, and then they start to collapse in on themselves. Technology's changed a lot since a lot of those truisms about being able to do things from the air. But at the end of the day, the Iranian people are going to have to decide what kind of society they want. But what we do know is it's possible to absolutely cripple the apparatus of a state in ways that, even as recently as 20 years ago would have been unheard of.
Speaking of truisms, Can two things be true here, John? Can people support the military efforts and the demise of a terrible dictator here, but also be concerned about regime change, having seen what happened in Iraq and Libya?
Absolutely. And that's a fantastic point. You know, it's the big unknown here about what type of how the government of Iran is going to evolve. And there's a range of outcomes. One is starting with the most hopeful one, and that is a pluralistic democrat society initially run by a caretaker government, perhaps by the Shah's son Pahlavi, or perhaps by another figure. That would be great. That's hard to stand up because Iran doesn't have a Nelson Mandela, Lech Walesa type figure around which the resistance and democratic forces can coalesce. What we do, and the other outcome here, is some sort of faction within the current state that will step forward and say, hey, we're not going to engage in malign activities like the missiles, the nuclear program, and supporting of terrorism. We want relaxation of sanctions. We're still going to be an Islamic Republic in name, but we're going to dial it back. That's very possible too. But enough pressure, but you have to degrade the apparatus of the state and the confidence of a lot of the bad actors before that's possible. So it remains to be seen exactly what form this will take. But you want to avoid, keep in mind, Iran isn't, ethnically monolithic. It's 2/3 Persian, roughly. You have a lot of Azeris who are more Turkic in their inclinations and linguistics and traditions. And then you have Kurds, and you don't want to have it be Persian on Kurd or Persian on Azeri. You want to be predominantly a Persian Persian change in government and to retain some stability.
Okay, that's John Jordan giving his thoughts from California this morning. Thank you so much, John.